Today we're joined by one of England's heroes and arguably one of the best English cricket batsmen that there's been. Fifth highest accumulator of first-class centuries, eighth in career runs, I'm told, and 108 international appearances, scoring over 8,000 runs. So hopefully you will enjoy a fun and informative podcast today with Sir Geoffrey Boycott. How you doing?
I'm good.
Good. So I think just if we go back to your childhood, Geoffrey, was cricket always in the blood? Or I think I seem to remember there's a bit of football talent in the feet as well.
No, it's not in the family at all. No particular sportsman. I grew up in an era where there was no television, no social media, no mobile phones. So as a kid, you had to make your own enjoyment and entertainment. That meant going outside to play soccer or cricket in the summer. What else was there except board games like Ludo, Monopoly in the house, where you did that at night. So you had to go outside and you played. And although I grew up in a mining community, we never had any money and nobody around us did. My father was a coal miner. I don't think I missed anything because I had a good childhood of playing sport, which physically outside enjoying myself. Today, I think too many kids sit on a settee watching TV or on iPads and on the mobile phones. Instead of getting out and getting some exercise and enjoyment, I mean, we would play even marbles by gaslight. You don't know, and many of your people won't know, but electricity, no, it was gas. Even in the street, you know, like Coronation Street, that's how I grew up, terraced house, the ginnels there, the lights were, gas, and we played marbles underneath them. You just made your entertainment, and I think we were better for it. So I know it's nice to have trappings of wealth, but I think I had a good childhood. My parents were pretty ordinary people, but I was clothed, I had food, they looked after me, and I grew up in an environment which, in a mining community, was safe. Today, like, you're worried about if you've got a daughter or a wife or a sister, aren't you, in certain places? No. Everybody knew everybody. We never had any cases of these, about children and whether it was boys or girls. I mean, there was a local policeman as well. There was a policeman's house. And that policeman would have a pint in the pub with people. And he played cricket in the summer. I remember him playing cricket. He didn't play football, but he played cricket in the local team. So he knew everybody. And so when he did his walk around, if there was an odd lad who were a bit of wild, the locals would give him the nod of, what was going on. And we didn't have any crime like that. We didn't have any disturbances.
Yeah, it's how things have changed.
I mean, we didn't even lock our doors. I grew up in an era where my mother didn't have a fridge or a freezer, didn't have a washer. She had to wash with the copper. They had to stoke it up with coal and boil the water, and then you had to have a mangle. Do you remember the mangles?
Yeah.
We got the water out.
The local car wash has one.
Yeah. And then she would hang it on the line, and she had to go for food every day. She had to go to the shops for fresh food because with no fridge or refrigerator, nobody had. You just had a pantry. And you had a bread tin, maybe the bread had lasted a couple of days, and the milk was delivered outside your door every day, fresh, by the milkman. No supermarkets like today. Yeah. Life was different. And so in that environment, I played cricket and football. My uncle was a local cricketer. He was a bowler, and he took me with him when I was about 9 to Ackworth. And so he took me on the bus, and I'd knock up with him. When he was getting loose for bowling, I'd get the batting, and then I'd field when the other lads came along, and I learned how to score. And then I got me tea, didn't I? I got me sandwich and a cake or two and a bottle of pop. And then at the end of the match, we went to the local pub, and they had pints. I'd get me a lemonade and Chris, and then he put me on the bus home with his clothes. And I'd take him to my grandma, who was 2 streets away. She'd wash them that Saturday night and try and get them dry so he could take them and play on Sunday.
Right.
They only got one set of clothes.
Yep.
I mean, it's just a way of life, and that's how I learned to play cricket.
And was back in the day, was there junior teams within that club, or was it straight into senior cricket? How was it structured back then?
1950 was Festival of Britain year, if you look it up. And after the war, which finished in 45, England was still on rationing. I know that's hard to believe, but you had a ration book. It only allowed so much meat or fish a week or a month. You had coupons even for sweets.
Right.
So when I went to the cinema, I was allowed to go on Saturday night. By the end of the month, with used hours, with 3 boys, I had 2 younger brothers, I used to cadge them off my grandma. And you were on coupons. So in 1950, the government at the time organised for juniors, under 11s, the primary schools, we call them junior schools, a competition, a 20-over competition. And now it's the rage, isn't it?
Yeah.
Started in India, they thought it was the best thing since sliced bread, and it was all new. It's not. It happened in 1950. And when we played schools in our area in a knockout, and we did quite well because I was lucky again. We had 2 teachers, Mr. Weaver was one of them, and they took us twice a week on an evening after school. They would chalk on the wall the wickets, and we would bowl with a softball, and they put markings where it was a good length for us to practice bowling to, and they taught us cricket. It was wonderful, and we did well. We got to the semi-final and got knocked out then, and the following year, the competition was so good in that Festival of Britain year, and the government had these competitions because they wanted people to have some enjoyment. There were all sorts of things going on, because the war must have been terrible for people, and then even 5 years afterwards, we were still distressed and in trouble and no food. So they were trying to do all kinds of nice things. And it was a great competition. And we found that I must have had some aptitude. My uncle took me to Johnny Lawrence's, which was a Somerset cricketer, a Yorkshireman, who bought a house and had a greenhouse.
Yeah,
there was a big 30-odd yard greenhouse doing nothing. And he put nets inside and put some rubber matting down. There were no artificial turf like now.
Yeah.
And made himself a homespun.
Net.
Yeah. And where he could get a bit of money in the winter, because the clubs in Somerset, Yorkshire, all the counties only paid you for the summer. No money in the winter. So he made himself where cricket clubs could book 2 hours and practice in the winter. And on Saturday and Sunday mornings, you could go for coaching. And I used to go on 2 buses, walk 3/4 of a mile with my stuff, but the first one there to get changed in this blinking greenhouse. Can you imagine? Snow on the roof, raining. But I loved it. It was the best time of my life. I was the first there, last away at lunchtime. And I used to knock up, a lad called Jackie Birkinshaw. He played for England. He played a bit for Yorkshire, then went to play for Leicestershire. And I used to knock on the door when I arrived. I was first one there, right next to Johnny Lawrence's. I said, Mrs. Birkinshaw, could you tell your Jackie I'm here? And he bowled off spin. And he'd come with a big pot of tea, 2-fold, A, to have a drink, and B, it would warm his hands. You can't spin the ball if your finger's in the cold, of January, February, March.
Yeah.
It would warm his hands, and he'd bowl at me with Johnny. And then other lads came. So I knew him. He was the best schoolboy cricketer I ever played with.
Wow.
He was brilliant. He got 50 runs every time he batted, and got wickets galore. In fact, I think he played for the North of England versus South. He got 5 wickets for 3 runs. He was brilliant.
Brilliant. And
that's how I started. And it was just, I don't know whether it was fortuitous or just luck or what. I have no idea. But I grew up with no money like a lot of people, but I have no regrets about it because we played sport which was healthy, which was good.
Yeah. And when did the first break come then with Yorkshire? How did that come about? And
I played for Ackworth. My uncle looked after me. He used to go to the pub where they all drank, and if he found out on Friday night that one of them had been offered a shift on Saturday and he got double time for it, so you got to take it, we hadn't much money, he wasn't going to be available for cricket. They used to come past my mum's late at night when I was in bed and tell me, get me up, go with him on the bus, and he'd sit me there waiting till there were 1 short and say, well, why don't you take our young'un? So I got to play when I was 11 with the men.
Wow.
And because a half a pint-sized one was better than
No.
nobody. And I just played like that, and then I got some aptitude, and with my coaching, and I played at Hemsley Grammar School, and then he took me to Barnsley. He decided when I was 15 that I needed to be pushed into a bigger league because Barnsley had 2 teams. Their second team was equal to Ackworth's first. And the first team was full of Dickie Bird and Michael Parkinson, big friends of mine I've been all my life, but I met them when I was 15. Michael was 5 years older, Dickie about 7. Oh, he's 90 this year, Dickie. He's going strong. And Dickie was a star. Oh, he was a good player when I was just a kid. And I've known him all my life, and I started in the second team. And when I started in the second team, I couldn't get enough cricket, enough batting. I played for Hemsley Grammar School in the morning, 10 o'clock start. We'd be finished by 2, maybe 3 o'clock. Barnsley's second team match started at 3, and that was like 10, 12 mile away. So Eddie Hambledon, who I played with, he had a motorbike. And so as soon as the match had finished, we'd hop on the back of the motorbike, my gear here, and I'm holding on to Eddie, and he'd take me to Barnsley on this. And they'd keep a place open for me, even if I didn't get there till 3:30 or 4:45, they'd keep that place open. We might be fielding, and then I'd bat afterwards. I got another innings that day. Or if we batted first, I still time to get in. And yeah, I just wanted to play. And then I got into the first team. And when I got into the first team, Dickie Bird was a star. Oh, absolute star. I mean, he used to come to me, Gerald, put my gloves on for me. Checking like this. I was thinking, my name's Geoffrey. All right, Gerald, put my gloves on for me. He called me Gerald all my life, you know. It's only until my daughter told him when she was 17, you've got to start calling him by his proper name. And he was so nervous is the reason why he didn't make it at first class cricket. He was good enough to technically, but he had that much nerves.
Wow.
And that's how odd it is that he then became the best umpire in the world.
The pressure on you.
Somehow, less pressure, and he could handle the players and make good decisions, and he was brilliant. But playing, it was a problem. And I went from Barnsley there, and then I got invited to the Yorkshire Nets. Yorkshire had a system then. Any headmaster, any local club, like you're chairman of your local club, could recommend a boy they thought was talented. And they would take him on in January, February, March, because Yorkshire's a big county. They had indoor nets. 2 nights in Leeds, 1 in Bradford, 1 in Sheffield, and 1 in Middlesbrough. That covered the whole county, so kids in that area could go for coaching with the county coaches, people like Maurice Leyland, who played 50 times for England. And they coached these kids and took note of which ones were pretty good, which ones improved, which ones they thought might be a Yorkshire cricketer. And those that didn't make it, the good thing about this coaching was those that didn't make it went back to club cricket better players, didn't they? Because they had coaching from some of the best. Mm-hmm. And the ones that, it was tough. Arthur Mitchell, who in charge, a guy you've never heard of, but he opened for Yorkshire. He opened for Yorkshire. I think he played for England about 3 times. One day, he's cutting his hedge. Yorkshire aren't playing in the middle of the summer. Test match at Headingley, so Yorkshire aren't playing. Maurice Leyland went down with back trouble. And Sellers, the chairman of Yorkshire, went to find him, and he's cutting his hedge and said, Arthur, we want you to come and play for England. They never had a 12th man, England. They never had, like now, there were about 15, 16 players there. They just had 11. And he had to stop cutting his hedge and go and play for England. Wow. And he got 50 runs. Brilliant. And he was the head coach, and he was a tough old bee. He was, I said to him one day, when I got to be playing for Yorkshire, I was captain, so I was top dog. I said, Arthur, you're a real bastard to us. You're a real... He said, it didn't do any harm, did it? Wow. He said, look where they are. I said, really? He said, look, my job was to find Yorkshire cricketers that could handle pressure, that were tough under pressure, because we have to try and win the championship. There's logic. I couldn't say anything. He said, You're no good to me if you're going to fold under pressure. Because Yorkshire's always under pressure.
Yeah, yeah.
They won more championships than anybody, and for a long time were the club.
Absolutely.
And that's how I started at Yorkshire, and then I met the great players like Truman and Close and all these. And I think the one thing I remember more than anything was, it was, even from an early age, play to win.
Yeah.
Within the rules, no gamesmanship or anything, just but win. Don't matter about losing, forget that. Play to win. If you lose, you lose. It's part of the game. But you have to play to win. Can't win? Try and draw the game. But the whole focus, and even when I went in the first team, even on the morning of a match, we haven't even tossed up or anything. We'd be saying, when that so-and-so comes in, don't forget, we want 2 gullies and a square cover point for him. And straight away that we were all thinking about people we'd seen before, the older end, and don't forget, Fred, to give him some short stuff because he don't like it. And the mind was just having a cup of tea before they'd even tossed up, before they'd warmed up or anything. And it stuck with me all my life. And I tell kids, there's no shame, no embarrassment in playing to win. That's what you're there for. Anybody who says play up and play the game is a load of, you play the game and you get the most enjoyment out of trying to win. Because you get the best out of yourself, you get your best out of your teammates. There's nothing else you can do then. Somebody plays better, you put your hand up and say, hey, they were too good for us.
And I guess a lot of the listeners that will be tuning into this podcast will, I guess, take a lot of comfort from you saying that in the business community. Is it fair to say that your work ethic and focus during that part of your career, Yorkshire, England, appreciate there were some ups and downs within that?
Always.
What was your kind of work ethic? Was it cricket at any cost, win at any cost to some extent?
No, not at any cost. Win within the rules and within. I think, for instance, Johnny Bairstow getting run out at Lords this year, I thought was wrong. That's against the spirit of the game. That's not how you want to win. So I'm not at any cost. We played to win properly. Then we weren't ashamed to put our hands up and say, hey, you played good, you were better than us.
Yeah.
And I just learned that from an early age. But I've met quite a lot of people, like Gary Player, met him many times. And he worked at it. I don't see any great player who hasn't worked at it. You have to work at it. But as I tell people, it's all right practicing, but practice isn't enough. You've got to have perfect practice. Because if you practice the wrong things, all you're doing is honing bad faults. That's what we do. When we practice so that we do it instinctively, automatically.
Yep.
When Michael Holding's bowling 90-odd mile an hour at me, I haven't time to think about my left elbow, my left foot, and what to do. It's got to happen in a third of a second like that, because that's how quick the ball is. It's gone.
Yeah.
And if you can't react to that instinctively, you're going to finish up in the hospital. Trust me, you are. And so you train yourself through practice to do instinctively the right things. To duck, but to look. Keep looking at the ball. To weave that way. If it misses me like that, a few inches, that's a million miles. I don't panic about it because I'm used to it. I train myself from a young age to do things. And that's what you got to do. You train yourself to do the right things. That's why when people, I play a little golf, as you know I did after I finished, and people say, oh, I've never had a lesson with great pride. I said, yeah, it looks like that too. Instead of just taking a bit of time with people who know what they're talking about, they can make you a lot better.
Sure.
I mean, people put 20 quid on the bar, won't they, for a couple of 3 pints, and they won't pay the pro 30 quid for a half an hour lesson. I think that's false economy. And so I was always asking Fred Truman and Raymond Illingworth, I picked the bowlers. Instinctively, I said to myself, who's going to study my batting best? The bowlers. They want to get me out. So I picked the 2 best bowlers at Yorkshire, Raymond Illingworth and Fred Truman. And Fred used to say to me, listen, Lee, they're going to be all right. I'm bloody fed up with the asking me questions. I want to go to sleep. And he'd tell me things, but he always wanted to sleep, you know. I don't know what he did at night. I can guess. but when he wasn't bowling, he used to like us to keep quiet and he'd put his head down and sleep. But I used to keep asking him questions. Where would you bowl at me? Where would you bowl? And this and that. And then he'd slip me a little aside when we were going to bat. Make sure you get forward on this pitch. You know, yeah, going to keep lowish. You don't want to be caught on the back foot. They knew, smart, the bowlers, got to get forward. There's that forward length, there's play back length, and there's the in-between. On a fast bouncy pitch, the in-between length, like Perth, stay back. Some of the pitches in Yorkshire, get forward.
Yeah.
And they'd tip you a wink sort of thing. They knew.
Brilliant.
And Raymond Illiam would say, just be careful of that best shot of yours. Off the back foot, just short of a length. I could hit it inside out there. Just instinct. Just be careful. They just knew. And so I listened. But the main thing is I wanted to learn. I wanted to ask them. I wanted to get better. I remember one year when I first started at Barnsley, I didn't think I was quite so good off my legs. So all for weeks I practiced. I told the bowlers to bowl straight and I batted on off stump. And if I missed the ball, I knew I was out. I was too far over.
Yeah.
So I practiced. And they would say to me, that's out, you missed it. And I said, yes, I know. But I knew what I was practicing, you see. And it's about practicing the right things. Always trying to get better. If you stand still, the bowlers are going to work you out. You've always got to be working forward to get a step ahead.
Yeah. It's,
I used to, look, when I batted, even for Yorkshire in England, when I went to my room at night, I worked out how long a practice I wanted. If I was playing really well, I didn't waste time in the nets. I had 7 or 8 minutes only. Just warm up, get my feet moving, and thank you very much. And they go, are you all right? I said, yeah, I'm fine, thanks. When I was playing okay, but nothing special, then I was working. I was always working for rhythm. I always believed, like a ballet dancer, it's all about perfection. Everything in sync, isn't it? Mm. And I think batting, when your eyes see the ball and your brain works out whether you play forward or back, and then it tells your hands and your feet where to go. If all that is working in sync, I knew I could get hundreds. I always knew. When it wasn't, I could get 40, 50, but I always knew it wasn't quite right. And so I practiced for that rhythm, to get in sync, to feel. And once I did, I used to say to Rachel, come watch me bat. I'll get 100. And when I get 1, I'll get 3. And I used to get them in 3s. Because once you found the magic formula, then
stick with it.
I fancied, unless I got a really good ball, that happens, but I fancy I'm going to get 100. And I worked at that for rhythm, for getting a good technique. If you work at it, yeah, but you just work at the right things, you can always make yourself better. And you've got to, these bowlers, they're not idiots. No, they were looking at you and they're thinking, I'll bowl here at him, I'll bowl there. I think Jimmy Anderson's just running up and bowling. He's working out, this fella. I'll set him up 2 or 3 outswings, then nip it back. And I get it full. And he's working in his head. So you need to be working on things to get ahead of him.
And just, you talk about training hard and practicing and getting that rhythm. And I guess that's key to some of the success you've had. And I guess I relate this to all kind of forms of life. When you've had those kind of periods of time where you were out of form and you were practicing, but it was in your head and it was on your mind and you were probably questioning your ability. And I guess everybody has those moments where things don't go quite right for them. Where did you dig to from kind of a mental perspective, and how did you deal with that pressure and challenge?
Tough. Oh, it's tough. It gets deep inside your head. And for me, I was probably last of a breed where we played on uncovered pitches. Kids today don't know what it's like because the covering is so good, the preparation of pitches has improved, like most things in life. But up to 1978, we played where the pitch was open to the elements. So if it rained on it, and you didn't know what you were going to get. You'd get Underwood bowling where it pitches and jumps past your blinking nose.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember playing one day against Underwood, and I said to him at Canterbury, Yorkshire match, we rained off, went to chat to him because he's an England friend of mine. I says, good for you, this deadly, 6 for 40. He said, if it rains another couple of hours, it'll be 8 for 20. He was that confident. And I played him one day. I played him one day on these wet pitch overnight. We come and it's wet. It's rained on it. Oh, my God. He bowled us all out for about 110. I made one of the best innings of my life, last man out for 50 odd. And I'm there playing the ball and it's jumping and what Alan Knott's taking it. Bowl deadly. Thank you, mate. Bowl deadly. Thank you, mate. I turned to him. I said, listen, if I hear you say that one more time, I'm going to hit you with my bat. He said, fire it, because he's a big friend of mine. I said, yeah, it's tough enough playing him without you keep telling him how good he is.
Brilliant.
It was brilliant. And you get these uncovered pitches. They're nothing like today. Your kids today have no idea. And your bats, you know, were £2 4 ounces. Now they're like that.
Yeah.
£3 something. They hit miles, don't they? We couldn't do that. So the game has changed and it's different. But what will never change is what's in your head.
Mm.
And this is what happens when you're not in form. It gets to you. It gets to everybody. And uncovered pitches, which I played on, it was easier to get out of form because these pitches get in the bowler's favour. You know, when it's green or it's wet and Jimmy Anderson's nipping it around or Underwood's making it jump, it's hard to make any runs. It's not like, oh, I'm not in great form, but it's a flat pitch today, flat pitch next week, and, you know, I'll just get in. No. When it's in bowler's favour, these wet pitches are, then it's easy to get out of form. And sometimes you need a bit of help from a colleague or a friend or somebody. When I wasn't in great nick, I used to ask my Uncle Algy to come home low. Again, we had no videotape. Like now, you could see what you're doing wrong. There's people at every England match now, there's computers, and as soon as the players come out, they're looking at how they got out, aren't they? We didn't have that. Television we didn't have. No, we didn't have television. So you're relying on your partner or your colleague. What happened there? Was that really out? Well, maybe you didn't get forward as far as you thought. And really? And you had doubts, but you believe your colleague. Now, that was a poor decision. That was missing leg stump. He's giving you LBW, but it was missing. You had to rely on them and then try and work out, you know, what did I do wrong? How could I have done it better? When you can see it in videotape, it's easy. You can put things right in minutes. But when you can't, you're relying on other people, you're out of form, your mind's scrambled, you're not getting runs, it's very difficult. And that's where strength of mind comes in. It's purely, you have to be strong in mind and determined, bloody minded if you want, all kinds of words. I think one of the best times for me was, we were having a tough time in 68, and I'm only 24. I've only just been in the England side a bit. I'm still raw and young. And I hadn't got 100 all year. We get to August. Yorkshire are fourth in the championship, not going to win, so there's hell on. And the chairman asks us all in next morning early. We're playing Leicester at Leeds. A lot of you in tomorrow morning, 9:30. Oh, Christ. So we all turn up, we sat there waiting. The secretary comes up, Dougie, could you pop down and see Mr. Sellers? All very nice, but wasn't nice when he came back. Ken, could you pop down and see Mr. Sellers? And one by one, they're all going down until I'm last. So, oh my God. So I go down and I go in and he says, I'm waiting for a bollocking under. He says, now then, what's the matter? I said, I don't know. I said, I try like hell, I practice, I don't know. Sit down. He said, right, this is what's going to happen. 6 weeks to go to end the season. However many runs you make or don't make, you're going to play every match. He said, I want you to go in, take 40 minutes or so, get used to the bowling and the pitch. Then I want you to just look to play. Forget it, because it doesn't matter if you get out, you're going to play. I went, wow. I made a lot of runs in August. And if you look up early September, that's when I got the great Gillette Cup final, 146, on a wet pitch. And we walked all over Surrey. Now that was man management, wasn't it? Mm. Clever. He given everybody a bollocking, but he obviously knew me.
Yeah.
And he knew I was trying, and he'd done the other way. He needed to get me to relax, didn't he? Mm. To get me to play. And he did.
Amazing. Mm. And we obviously don't have enough time to go through the 150 plus centuries that you got, but what would be the standout one for you? What's the one that really just kind of is always there in the front of mind?
Quite a lot, really. All of them. I can remember them all. They're all important to me. But obviously, my 100, that's going to be there as the marker when I'm dead long after. It's never going to go away. 18th man to get 100 hundreds. First man to do it in a test match when you're first of anything. And to do it at Headingley against Australia, I mean, just magic, wasn't it? The standout innings was Trent Bridge, really. That was my 98th 100. Not as I was counting at that time. I was under so much pressure, not having played for England for 3 years, deliberately opting out, coming back. Tough. The pitch was like concrete. Thompson and Pascoe were going to give me a working over. I hadn't played for 3 years. I was 36. You passed it at 36. Definitely passed it. You're not as good as you were at 30. Your reactions can't be, and so forth. So they're going to test you out, see if you passed it, see if you've got it, see if you've got the courage, the heart, for it. Yeah, and then some people will be mad at me for not playing for England for 3 years, so they wanted me to fail, and a lot more wanted me to succeed. But it'd be tough. Yeah, it was tough. And I knew that if I got out and failed, some would say, well, what the hell was it all about? It's supposed to be the best player. We missed him, but we haven't missed him. Not very good. So, yeah, there's a lot of pressure. And then I went and ran Derek Randall out, my friend, but local hero. Oh, God, you couldn't get any worse than that. I mean, when the lad who wrote my autobiography, Terry Brindle, he said, oh, my goodness, he's his own worst enemy. And this other guy, Lynn Wellings from a London paper, says, not while I'm around, he ain't. That's the sort of thing. So, but I made 100. And by sheer guts and tenacity and mental strength, because I wanted to bury myself. I wanted to walk off the pitch. I was at a very low ebb. And England were 80 for 5. They're going to lose the game. I made 100. I'll have not made 100. We won the game by 10 wickets.
Wow.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Because I've always believed that, look, we play 2020 now, which is wonderful, exciting, great for kids to see the ball being smacked around. It's pure fun. It's cricket's answer to baseball.
Yeah.
Can you hit a 4, a 6, a home run every ball? But Test cricket, where I played, that's an examination of your technique. Can you play the fast bowling? When you get in tough situations, have you got the heart for it? Have you got the mental strength? It really is an examination of so many things. That's why we all hold it up as the yardstick to be judged by.
Yeah.
2020 is fun and makes lots of money for the players. But it's not a real examination of so many other factors. So my 98th, I would say, was the
pinnacle.
Yeah, that was the pinnacle, not because it was aesthetically good, of great shots. It's just everything that encompasses Test match cricket, the mental strength when you're at your lowest, and it would be easy to give in, get out, and go to the safety of the dressing room. But no, I was too bloody minded for that.